Hello, it's Nick B. Spurred on by Terry B's Mammoth Pick competition, I've restarted to make some dimple picks. A while ago I lamented the fact that everybody seemed to be making artisan standard picks, but nobody really made fancy dimple picks, so I thought I'd have a go. It seemed an easier option to me than all of the flat steel work that I'm pretty sure I'd be rubbish at. So I had to go and bought myself a little lathe and some ejector pins, which is what I make the picking tips out of. That's an ejector pin, but I thought I'd just do this as an introduction, just to show you how basic that you can do it. This is my workshop. It's outside in my garden. It's November at the time of filming this. So there you go, it's a shade over 10 degrees. Yeah, so surprisingly I'm pretty hardened to the cold. I do a lot of outdoor sports, so I don't really feel it. But yeah, this is my setup. This is what I've got. I've got a vise, I've got some hand files, and some sandpaper or emily cloth. And that's what I use to make the tips. So yeah, as I say, this is an ejector pin. I use the 1.5mm ones, and I'll just do a sort of breakdown video now of how I shape these tips, just in case anybody's interested and wants to have a go themselves. So yeah, that's introduction over. I'll come back in a second, and yeah, I'll show you my absolutely terrible metalworking skills. Great, see you in a second. So got the ejector pin set in the vise, and the first job is to just rough out into a flag shape. So for this I use a big file. I wouldn't even begin to tell you what the file is. It's a big one, and I'd take it down take it down on the three sides that is required. So I'll come back to you once I've done the first one. That's the first side taken off. Now what I do is I take that down until it just starts marking the shaft, because I do thin the shaft down as well, because the 1.5mm is too big, but I chose this size to keep a little bit of strength in the ejector pin as well, because when I put them into the handles that I make, there's just a little bit more volume there. So the next one is to now take off this angle. So yeah, I'll come back to you when I've done that. Okay, that's rough down to this point now. Again, it's just at the point of marking the shaft, which is, as I say, that's totally okay, because I do file for the portion that's outside of the handle and thin that shaft down. So then what you've got is that shape. It doesn't matter. Yeah, doesn't matter that I've lost some. It's not exactly a proper quarter of a circle, because a lot of that is going to get lost as well. So now the next one is the most difficult one. I'll just set it up in the vise and come back to you in a second. Okay, now there's not enough metal to clamp now to take off the last surface in the roughing out procedure. So what I have to do is clamp it by the stem, and then I brace it with this piece of wood, and then this way with my thumb, and then I file this edge off until I get a flag. Okay, that's that section finished. Let's loosen that off. So what I've got now is a very basic flag shape. And that's the start of the flag. So the next section now is to take off the shoulders, round that off, and then what I'll start to do is I will start to section out the flag from there, thin out the blade before I decide what sort of shape flag this is going to be. Okay, so that's the shoulders filed off and just tidied up a little bit. Now what I've done is mark up how far down the shaft that I need to thin this shaft out to. It's about 35mm. Basically that measurement has been taken off a multi-pick, so it seems to be about right to reach in to even like 7x7s and stuff like that, fairly deep locks. So the next step is to file this down, and what I do is I file the shaft and then sand it into an oval, the same as the multi-picks. So I take a little bit off the back, a little bit off the front, and thin down the sides ever so slightly. That's mostly with the sanding, but yeah, this is about the hardest bit of the process. The shafts seem really hard. I don't know what it is about it, but yeah, I'll come back to you once that's roughed out. I'm having a really tough time with this pin, trying to get the flag section to come down. So what I'm going to do in this instance is to I've just marked up roughly the size of flag that I want to do, so I'm going to reduce the length of the flag more to size, so I've got less surface area to work on. I found this with a couple of ejector pins that some of them seem a lot harder than others, and my files just aren't touching it. Just a point to what's it at this point. It looks rough as hell. Don't worry, it should all come good. Okay, starting to look a little bit more like. Still got a lot of where is it? A lot of thinning to do, a lot more shaping. But yeah, I've reduced it in its height. Where is it? Reduced it in its height. Still looks an absolute mess. Even at this point, I'm worried as to whether it's going to work out or not. Elapsed time. Now that is about, that is an hour and a quarter's work. Is it worth it? Okay, that's now down roughly to the thickness and shape on the end that I want. So now's the time to shape the flag into the size and shape. Come on, what's up with your focus? Into the size and shape that I actually want from the flag. I'm going to go for a small one for pin in pin, roughly equivalent to a multi-pick number 7 on this one, I think. Okay, that really is the flag pretty much to shape now. So the next step is sanding. Now this is another step that takes forever. So what I do is I cut strips of ever increasing grit paper, and I'll just, sorry about this. Okay, so it goes in the vise like that, and then with strips of sandpaper, I obviously with 2 hands increasingly just backwards and forwards until the shaft starts to smooth out and ovalize. So yeah, that's the next step. Off I go. Okay, so I've only ever had this happen to me once before. This particular ejector pin seemed awkward for some reason, and as you can see, I've snapped it. Okay, wasn't being particularly aggressive, so it's a good thing that it's happened now, because it would have snapped in use almost for sure. Yeah, that's at least an hour and 40 minutes, and I'll start work on another one, and I'll just bring it to this same process. But you can see that it was starting to clean up nicely with the sanding. Yeah, those that know me off UK Lock Sport Forum, this is me despondent. Wow. Okay. I'm now back to where I was. This is another one. Okay, so that's the shaft, just fairly well sanded. I can see that just in the video there, there's a definite, some definite marks in there. But what I'm going to start doing now is sanding the flag and all the areas around the flag, and final shaping of the flag with by sanding. But there you go, it's slowly coming on. This one really seemed totally different to the other one. The metal was a lot more workable. I didn't have any of the problems that I had with it just being too hard. I think that the other ejector pin was just too brittle. So it's, as I say, a good thing that it broke when it did. Okay, the flag's pretty much down to the shape that I want it to be now, but still oversized, because I find that my next sort of parts of the process is still reduce the flag even more. So what's next is more and more sanding, and then onto the polishing process. People will cringe when I tell anybody that actually does any metal work, will probably cringe when I tell them about what I do as far as polishing, and but yeah, we'll come to that in a second. So more sanding to come, and I'll get set up for polishing. Okay, so I've got the flag to the shape that I want it now. It's still a little bit oversized, and the reason it's oversized is because this is my polishing process. As you can see, I've got all the kit. Now it's oversized because I polish so much that I actually use it as part of the shaping process. I polish this tiny little thing for, well, I use most of the charge in the battery of this drill. I know it's probably a terrible thing, but in combination with some polishing paste and this sort of fairly hard mop, this is the only mechanical process I allow myself in it. Everything else has been done by hand, and it's just what I've found that works. So anyway, I'll check in with you in a little bit with hopefully a finished flag. Okay, finished. So what we have now is a finished flag. Just give you as much of a view on it as I can and still keep it in focus. So that, well, obviously it took a lot longer because I ended up making it twice today. I'm quite pleased with the result of it. The mirror polish on the shaft I find really helps. I do this to I've got a set of multi-pick G Pros. I polish these to a very similar level, and yeah, I find it really helps with slipping in and out of tight keyways, less snagging. So anyway, that is part one of this video. finished. As I say, try and get you as much of a view as we can of this. Let's see if we can get a focus on it. Yeah. So there you go, that's how it'll work in the lock. So I've just got to make a handle for it. Be really interested to hear what people think of my process, my work. Genuinely interested, because I did a bit of metal work at school way back in the what would that be, the 70s. I wasn't very good at it. This is entirely self-taught, but I think that looks okay. So anyway, let's see how we get on with making a handle for it next.